So they body gonna be down there forever? And what, they just gonna close it down like no one can go in there? Like if you do, you get arrested trespassing? That's crazy.
System, the Norwegian police called in a specialized diving unit for the rescue operation. British diver Rick Stanton, known for his rescue and recovery missions in caves, volunteered, and he called upon 2 other British cave divers to help out. The 3 men would dive into the cave system from the Steinugaflogget side.
I volunteer to go do that. You go rescue the dead bodies, or would you tell them, I need, need something, this unsafe and risky right here. Let me know. What up, AP? What up, family? Got another cave video, but this is a little different. They going cave diving underwater. Talking about in the icy Alaska, I think Alaska and the cold. To my type of, I can't do it. But we watching something different. Instead of cave diving with, going through mountains, they going underground inside of a lake. I think a lake, if I'm not mistaken. So this one gonna be brutal. I'm really excited to watch this, man. So, cause this different, this different. Scuba diving and cave diving, scuba diving, it's all the same. We diving, and we could have dived right into this video. Oh snap!
On February 14th, 2014, 5 Finnish cave divers set out for the ultimate challenge: to traverse Norway's ice-cold underwater Plura cave from end
Oh, damn, Norway. My bad, Norway.
to end. Their goal was to reach Steinugaflogget Cave, the long way. The expedition involves a 5-hour dive to depths of more than 425 feet. Along the way are sharp rocks, narrow passages, and ice-cold waters that reach temperatures as low as 35 degrees Fahrenheit. One false move could rip open your dry suit and leave you drowning in an icy grave. Even panicking can kill you. Something they would learn all too well. At the start of their expedition,
See, this is why I'm excited watching it. I know those guys, last video we watched caving, their clothes is getting ripped up, pants getting ripped. Now you going down there in a diving suit, man. And once you dive and you inside the cave, underwater, it's like this is it. Like everything that you need to bring before you jumped in there, or everything you need to, have the procedure before you jumped in there. Like once you get in there, ain't no turning, like ain't no going back once you deep in there. You know what I'm saying? Let's see, man.
everything was going according to plan. But at one of the deepest points of the descent, the unthinkable happened. How did 2 of the Finnish cavers die? How did the other 3 barely make it out alive? And why did the divers break the law? Before we dive deeper into this one, make sure to like and subscribe for more incredible survival stories. Plura Cave is located.
Oh, and I will drop the link in the description as well for if you want to go watch more of his videos too on their channel. So yeah.
Beneath a 115-foot wide river. Steinugaflogget, a long and colorful cave section, appears about 1,640 feet deep, making it a hot spot for cave diving enthusiasts. Most divers will turn back the way they came upon reaching this point, but more skilled divers will go further into the cave's depths, where the path gets darker, colder, and more challenging to swim through. For these 5 Finnish friends, it would be the ultimate test of their caving skills. They set out to navigate the entire cave system backwards, starting at the most difficult entrance, an icy pond. Then heading through miles of deep, craggy passages to reach Steinugaflogget Cave on the other side. The group consisted of Patrick Gronqvist, Jari Huotarinen, Vesa Rantanen, Jari Usamaki, and Kai Konkinen. And this wasn't their first rodeo. They've done several dives together, like exploring the Ojamo mine west of Helsinki. Patrick and Kai had previously explored the entire cave system of Plura in the opposite direction in 2013. But for Jari H., Vesa, and Jari U, this would be their first attempt. Given their experience with previous dives, it didn't seem to be much of a concern, but they fully understood the dangers. The deeper the dive, the greater the risks. Hypothermia, decompression sickness, carbon monoxide poisoning, and equipment malfunctions were all deadly variables they knew they were getting into. The 5 friends headed to Plura together, preparing themselves for what they thought would be a 5-hour dive. They hitched a trailer to their van containing a snowmobile, underwater scooters, dozens of diving
I think if I was to do that type of, activity, I just have to train, and then eventually become muscle memory. I mean, some dudes good at it, and some dudes it just ain't for you. I wouldn't know for myself, but like I say, when I do whatever I do, I think I'm pretty good at it. I learn pretty fast. But yeah, man, that's it's kind of more with a what if could happen, like this different, like not just you at your regular job and working with machinery, you know what I'm saying? Your safety, but this it's go beyond safety because you just never know what it can happen. That's crazy.
tanks and necessary gear. Together, they created a plan to ensure the dive went smoothly and safely. They broke ice at the pond late in the afternoon, expecting to resurface before it got too dark. Instead, they would be below the surface for nearly half a day. Before we go fishing for more survival tips, and then Vesa, Yari Yu, and Kai following suit. Although there was never a group leader, Patrick would head the dive with Yari H trailing behind. The second group would wait about 2 hours for the sediments from the first divers to settle before heading down. Everything was going to plan. Patrick led the way through the depths with Yari H close behind him. Shortly into the expedition, the pair turned on their headlamps as things quickly got dark. However, it wouldn't be long before they reached an area called the air chamber. This is a part of the cave that you can either swim or trudge through, as the waters aren't nearly as deep. At this point, the 2 divers had to pass through nearly 820 feet of the air-filled space above the water before descending to the lowest point of the journey. The 2 followed along the guideline left by Patrick back in 2013. The pair made it through the deepest part of the dive, at one point being more than 425 feet below the surface. This is at the very bottom of the cave, where the passage forms a U shape. This marks the most dangerous section. The cave becomes narrow and craggy, requiring divers to maneuver through a steep 90-degree turn. It's also where disaster struck. As Patrick continued, he soon noticed his partner was no longer behind him. He looked back and noticed light flickering in the distance. That's when his worst nightmare became a reality. 367 feet below ground, Yari H was tangled in their guideline. Waving his light to signal distress, Patrick quickly swam toward him to help. Yari H began to panic. His rapid breathing put him at risk of carbon dioxide poisoning, otherwise known as hypercapnia. When talking about the rebreathers and the type of oxygen tanks the divers were using, Patrick compared it to breathing into a paper bag. Specifically with the closed kind of oxygen tank and mask the divers were using, if they were to start breathing too rapidly or panic, the system wouldn't be able to filter out all the carbon dioxide produced by the body. Fortunately for Yari H, this is exactly what started to happen. Patrick moved quickly, switching Yari's mouthpiece to deliver fresh oxygen, but this was a fatal mistake. Sadly, in a state of shock, Yari helplessly started swallowing the ice-cold waters of the cave. Patrick was terrified, but he knew he had to keep calm so as to not suffer the same fate as his friend. With the mentality of leaving no man behind, Patrick tried to free his friend's lifeless body, but to no avail. All that was left to do was to continue onward to Steinugoflaget Cave and get help.
That's what I want to know. How he get tangled, Oh man, that's a hard one right there to swallow. That's like you trying to help your homie out or your friend out in a situation, and the more you try to help them, the more you gonna panic and you gonna suffer the same fate. That's a hard one to swallow right there, bro.
For cave divers, time is of the essence. Every extra minute spent can tack on hours of decompression needed. Decompression sickness happens when pressurized nitrogen in your bloodstream forms bubbles if you surface too quickly. This can lead to what's known as the bends. If you aren't careful, these bubbles can block major blood vessels, causing joint pain, organ damage, and in some cases, death. To avoid this, you must slowly take regular decompression stops so your body can get used to the lower pressure as you continue to rise. For this reason, Patrick knew he had to get moving. This meant he wouldn't be able to let the second group of divers know what had happened, and they would inevitably find their dead friend blocking their path. He had now been at depths of more than 360 feet for more than 20 minutes. He needed to spend an extra 2 hours to decompress safely on his way up. But after spending so much time trying to save his friend's life, that number went up to 6 hours and 40 minutes. At this point, he decided to go to the surface once he was 20 feet away from it, skipping his last decompression stop. After being underwater for 7 hours, it was worth the risk, as he was running low on oxygen. Meanwhile, the second group was en route and things were about to go from bad to worse. Vesa Rantanen was the first diver in the second group to discover what had happened. He had to decide what to do when he got to the narrow place where the first diver got stuck. His options were to try to pass his dead friend or turn around and attempt a very long and difficult journey back. He decided to go forward, which was the right decision, but it took him more than 15 minutes to get past his dead comrade. Vesa also had to remove some of his gear he was carrying to get by Jari H's body, but would eventually catch up to Patrick. Still, two other divers, Jari Yu and Kai Konkinen, would need to pass through. It's unclear what exactly happened, but police reports believe that upon finding his dead friend, Jari Yu also started to panic and passed out due to carbon dioxide poisoning. Kai, trailing behind Jari Yu, tried to come to his aid, but unfortunately couldn't save him in time. Again, in a situation like this, as tough as it may be, not letting your emotions get the best of you could be the difference between life and death.
But how can you though, man? You got two homies or a homie, and you see 2 hours later you come and see, like, he's dead. I just seen him a couple hours ago. We just had a laughing moment. How we gonna finish this and drink cocoa and what I'm saying, and eat chocolate, man. After this, that's crazy.
As difficult as it likely was to see his dead friend, had Jari Yu remained calm, he would have survived the way his three other colleagues did. Unlike Vesa, Kai decided to take a longer route back to safety, turning around and heading back the way they came. After nearly 11 hours in the water, accounting for decompression stops, Kai would make it out of Plura Cave and had to break a thin layer of ice to get out of the water. Although Patrick, Vesa, and Kai all survived the dive, they dealt with severe decompression sickness, as well as the psychological torture of having to see their two friends pass away right before their eyes.
Are you tired of e-signature vendors that are too expensive and don't provide the support you deserve?
Given the quick ascent, Vesa started to feel pressure in his joints, elbows, and knees, a very common symptom of decompression sickness. Patrick also reached the surface 30 minutes before his diving computer told him it was safe to do so. In total, what he expected to be a 5-hour dive turned into an 8.5-hour nightmare for Patrick. Initially, he was unsure if Vesa was still alive. It took Patrick an hour before seeing his friend. Vesa ascended to the surface nearly 90 minutes before he was supposed to. Due to a lack of oxygen available in their tanks, the divers could no longer risk suffocation and had to deal with the effects of decompression sickness. Thankfully, the three men got medical help and fully recovered. Vesa's decompression sickness was the most severe, requiring him to be treated in a recompression chamber in Berlin, Germany. However, the terror of this fatal dive wasn't over yet. After the authorities were notified, all three men were interrogated. A decision had to be made on how to recover the bodies of the deceased divers. Patrick explained how immediately when they resurfaced, they were flown to a hospital in Tromsø and put into a pressure tank. After recovering from decompression, they had their diving equipment confiscated and were taken into interrogation. Going back into the cave for their friends' bodies at this point seemed unlikely. With the severity of the situation and their two friends' bodies still lodged in the cave.
So their body gonna be down there forever? And what, they just gonna close it down, like no one can go in there? Like, if you do, you get arrested trespassing? That's crazy.
System, the Norwegian police called in a specialized diving unit for the rescue operation. British diver Rick Stanton, known for his rescue and recovery missions in caves, volunteered, and he called upon 2 other British cave divers to help out. The 3 men would dive into the cave system from the Steinugelflaget side.
I volunteer to go do that, to go rescue the dead bodies, or would you tell them, I need, need something, this sounds safe and risky right here. Let me know.
He learned that recovering the bodies was nearly impossible. Yari H's body was too tightly wedged to move, and he was blocking access to the body of Yari U. The rescuers ultimately deemed the operation too risky.
We couldn't even access that part of the cave. This really is just too dangerous. It's not worth to risk your own lives.
Following the decision to put an end to the rescue mission, a diving ban was officially put in place, and it was determined the men's bodies would be left in the cave indefinitely. But Patrick and the 2 other survivors didn't agree. They all knew what they had to do, and it involved breaking the law. Patrick promised Yari H's wife that the men would go and get them, no matter the stakes. The 3 men, along with many other divers, created a secret plan to recover the bodies, illegally. Patrick and Kai were joined by Sami Pakarinen, a fellow diver and colleague who joined them in 2013 during their diving expedition when they first explored the entire Plura cave system. In total, the rescue operation included 17 Finns and 10 Norwegians, who all worked together to ensure they would retrieve the bodies in the safest way possible. The group would start on March 20th, expecting the rescue mission to last approximately 5 days. They decided to split into 2 teams, diving from the Plura cave side and the dry cave inside Steinugelflaget. The teams would also create a 20-foot underwater habitat attached to the cave walls. This would act as a dry decompression chamber for the divers to use if the rescue mission got extended due to unforeseen circumstances. They brought tons of equipment, including spare decompression cylinders, rebreathers, dive torches, dry suits, and first aid kits. In addition to all this, they would use DPVs, diver propulsion vehicles, which are underwater scooters, to help them maneuver quickly. A total of 50 cylinders would be dropped collectively on both sides and placed at numerous decompression stops. Patrick, Sami, and Kai would dive from the Plura side. Vesa would manage the team on the Steinugelflaget side, as he was still recovering from injuries sustained during the initial dive. However, 280 feet into the dive, Kai had to turn back, explaining he wasn't in the right mindset to continue with the mission. The other 2 divers continued to descend into the depths of Plura. Just under an hour into their journey, Patrick and Sami came across the body of Yari U in the same spot where he initially passed 46 days before the rescue. Just 65 feet ahead was the body of Yari H, their first objective. After cutting him loose, the 2 men brought the body of Yari H to the dry cave side of Steinugelflaget, where other divers would take over and help get the body to the surface.
So I know it being in that cold water, I know the body probably, it had decomposed, still probably was in good shape, good, to where his family at least can have a great funeral. They can see his body. Because imagine just burying your husband or your loved one or your family member, a friend, and it's a closed casket. Like, you can't even see them for the last time, just our memories and pictures, right? It's crazy.
During this time, Patrick and Sami had to make several decompression stops, staying underwater for 5 hours throughout the mission. The next day they came back for the body of Yari U, this time entering from the Steinugelflaget side. Surprisingly, this part of the mission was more complicated, as Yari U's body was more buoyant and difficult to carry. At one point, a part of the cave collapsed onto Patrick. Thankfully, they were able to retrieve both men's bodies successfully, and despite breaking the law, they let the local authorities know about their rescue mission. While they were investigated for their crimes, after 6 months, no charges would be laid against the men, and the Finnish president would even present Patrick with a Medal of Honor. The cave reopened to the public in March of 2014, just days after the recovery. With these cautionary tales in mind, if you're planning on cave diving, you should always ensure you have 2/3 of your air supply available for resurfacing. If the cave is deep and long, You should also use a continuous guideline to the surface. And whatever you do, don't go diving in any cave without training. And always go caving in numbers. Although it may not guarantee your survival, it can help increase your chances. Especially if you're venturing into the world's deepest cave. It was a lesson these Russian explorers learned all too late. We'll find out what happened to them on another episode of How to Survive.
Hey, tell me how y'all like that one, man. Now that was like one of those stories, like not horror stories, but like a drama type story. Well, it had to be a tragic ending, but a tragic in the middle, but it became a nice story at the end. Even though it's sad, but that's crazy, man. That's a part of diving, man. Cave diving at that. But y'all tell me how y'all like that one, man, and tell me what would you like to see next, more of. Say I appreciate y'all for watching. You are part of the AP family. If you watch it, watch me every day or every other day, whenever I drop. I appreciate you. With that being said, AP family, I'm out.